RWBY Volume 4, Episode 4, Family. Now this was actually a really good episode. It has some good emotional stuff in it. Definitely had probably some of my favorite lighthearted moments, mostly because it had to do with Yang, considering everything she's gone through. I was happy to see her, like, being okay, especially after Taeyang made that joke. I think we all had the same feeling, and he's like, you know, he was on some brain cells along with that arm. And just like, Oobleck and Pork, I'm just like, oh my goodness, like, I don't know where this is headed, but then she laughs at him, and I'm like, whew, that was close, because, like, that was just crazy. Like, you even see Oobleck's eyes, like, his glasses come down, and you see his actual pupils, like, you know something's wrong when that happens. So, I was glad that that's how that scene went, because I was about to say, man, this is about to turn from, like, kind of happy and, you know, a little bit of an issue, because they're still, you know, they're having their argument. But it was about to go from, like, mad to horrific. But fortunately, they just laughed about the whole situation. It's like, oh my goodness, that's a huge sigh of relief. Like, wow, I'm very happy that that's how that played out. But it was a really good episode. And I was surprised by the way they did it, because considering so much was focused on Yang, I didn't expect them to show us, you know, Team Ranger, like, at all. I didn't think they were going to show up, and then, you know, that's kind of like the last chunk. And technically they only show up, it's, you know, their side of the story, but it's not really about them. But it was really cool, and I loved what we got, the answers we got. You know, we have Oscar, we find out the young boy's name, and there are a million theories based off of this episode, and a lot of people believe that, of course, Ozpin is using his semblance, which may have something to do with time, to send his consciousness back to his younger self. And that's why, you know, it's in the mirror. So, and plus that's, you know, kind of a fairy tale thing, because he's, of course, the Wizard of Oz. So it's sort of, they kind of blended two things, because he's, you know, like the man behind, you know, the curtain type of deal. But they blended that with the mirror on the wall. So I thought that was interesting. I thought that was a really logical theory, because someone pointed out, you know, him having, like, all the gears and stuff, it has to have something to do with time. And when I read that, I was like, holy crap, maybe he doesn't have super speed like when he was fighting against Cinder. Maybe that was just him pausing time. Like, you know, it looks like he has super speed, but technically that's him pausing time so that he, you know, has the ability to react, or he's turning back time or something like that. So this is interesting. I don't know how the heck this is going to play out. Some people, you know, if it is correct that he sent his consciousness back in time to his younger self, that would be interesting. And maybe he sent his physical form back as well, because, of course, you know, there's that whole thing where Qrow found his weapon, but he never found his body. And that was the big thing about it. Like, okay, that's, of course, you know, even in the last volume's finale, that's what I was like, alright, I don't think he's officially dead. And so now it's very interesting that he could have sent his entire, even physical being back in time. So I'm not sure how this is going to play out, if that really will be a younger version of himself. I mentioned before, my initial theory was that maybe this kid was one of the maidens, which the Spring Maiden is mentioned to be very important, and a lot of people theorize that the Spring Maiden is so relevant because they're nearing spring. So I thought that was interesting too. That makes a ton of sense, that whatever season it is, that's when that maiden will be the strongest. So if they, you know, if that maiden falls to the villains, then everybody's wiped out. But if the heroes are able to find this maiden, then they have a great chance to actually fight back. So that was really cool. Of course, we got to see Yang put on the arm in this episode. I personally don't think, considering her costume, and I mentioned this before, I figured at some point she'd use the arm, but I'm sure that they're going to go with she doesn't use the arm, at least during fighting. Maybe she'll do it for, like, normal stuff, but maybe she'll just get used to it, where she's like, you know what, I'm better off without the arm. And technically speaking, it kind of works better with her semblance, because if she can't fight back as much, as weird as it is, her technically, you know, taking more hits because she can't block as much, kind of helps build up her semblance. So in a way, as weird as this is, her having, you know, one arm oddly helps. In a weird sense, it could help her fight a little bit better. And I don't know, I'm curious how they're going to do it. It was cool to see her use the metal arm, and I know a lot of people were complaining that it seems super fast, but with the time skip it makes a lot of sense. Plus we don't have time for this. We know this is going to be like 13 episodes, as most volumes are. So we don't really have all this time. We're waiting for them to give her the arm at the last minute. So I don't know exactly how it'll play out, but based on her main, costume sketch, she doesn't use that metal arm. She may use it, and then it's just like, you know what? Screw it. Like, she even said it herself. Her having one arm is the new normal, and she has to kind of make of it what she can. And with it being Yang, of course, it'll take some time, but she'll get used to it. And I like the way they did it, where, she's listening to Taiyang, where he's like, hey, the reason I didn't go to look after RWBY is because I have things I have to, deal with in the more immediate vicinity. So she kind of puts on the arm to kind of kickstart things, where it's like, all right, I'm going to get myself together, so at least, I'll get myself to at least a point where you feel confident enough to leave, and that way you can help RWBY, so I'm not a hindrance, to either of you. Like, you don't have to worry about her, and I don't really have to worry as much about her either, because, of course, Yang is probably thinking, like, my little sister's out there, even though, of course, she's with the team. It would still probably make her feel better if, her dad was out there. So I thought that was really cool. I was like, okay, so she kind of, it was more for other people than it was for herself, which is very cool, because it's almost like the opposite of her character, where she's, of course, very brash. She's never selfish or anything, but she's just, the cocky, brash character. And this is just that aspect of her that, in general, where she is in life is almost the opposite of her normal character. So her taking that step, even if she wasn't really ready, was really cool. So I definitely enjoyed seeing that. One of the other really big theories in this episode is that Qrow might actually be RWBY's real dad, and I thought that was very interesting. I never thought that myself. Apparently some people have been thinking that for a while now, but I never thought that. I just thought, a lot of people were like, oh, is it weird that Taiyang was with both, Raven and Summer? And that's just what I always thought. I mean, they were sisters, and I was just like, okay, well, she died, and then he ended up being with somebody else. I honestly thought that's just how it happened. It happens in real life. Like, people, it's kind of crazy, but sometimes people end up with, like, their siblings, wives and husbands and stuff after the sibling dies, because, like, they just bond like that, because it's like, we lost this important person. And then they end up together. There's like a Mel Gibson movie about that. It's in like, from like the 1800s, so different times. But that type of stuff happens. So, none of them were related, so I thought it just made sense. It was like, all right, he was with, Raven. And I guess with RWBY being younger, I guess it wasn't that Summer died. It was more that Raven was just like, peace, and she left. And who knows what her deal is. I mean, we saw her in this episode. Still looking awesome with the samurai like gauntlets and everything, and they changed her face too. You could tell they changed it. She doesn't look exactly like Yang, because she definitely did the first time. She just looked exactly like her, but with black hair and red eyes. So I was like, alright, that's cool. You can see, like, it's very subtle. I was like, I'm glad it's like a slight change to her, because it was literally just Yang's face on a different person. So I was glad that changed a little. And then she comes in, and she's not as protective as she seems, which she didn't seem that protective to begin with, because they even had it in the last volume where she was like, yeah, that was like your one time being saved. So they kind of bring that up again, which I thought was pretty cool. But it was kind of awesome. It was still great seeing her, despite getting to see her very mean personality, but it was still pretty awesome, her and Qrow talking with each other. And, they have this very interesting conversation about family and just everything that's happening, the maiden that they need to find, and whatever this relic is, which Raven is freaking out, like, hey, does Cinder have this thing, or Salem? She specifically says Salem, so they have a real serious connection with Salem from the past. So it's like, does Salem, have the relic? And it's like, no, but it's kind of just out there. Like, nobody knows where the relic is or the maiden. So there's a bunch of stuff up in the air right now that everyone's kind of looking for. And unfortunately, we find out that Raven is not involved in, like, a subsect of the White Fang, which she still might be. She could still be, like, pseudo-undercover, because that was the first guess because of her mask. But we find out that she's actually the leader of, like, the bandit clan that destroyed that village in episode 2, which, that would be interesting. I thought that that's what this episode was going to be about, because it was called Family. I thought it was going to be about Nora and Ren, especially after the last World of Remnant episode, which, of course, ties in almost 100% with this episode. They went to the inn and everything, and it's like, yep, we went to the inn. There are bandits and all this stuff. So it was really interesting, and they reference, well, at least Qrow references that Raven has something really powerful, on her side, but he doesn't mean that it's her. So she's got something that allows them to really like wipe out these cities very, very quickly, but he just doesn't know exactly what it is. And we're gonna see what happens with her, when she encounters Team Ranger, because Nora and Ren, I'm assuming, were a part of, that group. So either, Raven is the leader currently, but she and Qrow were both raised by this tribe as well. And she decided to stay, but he's the one who left. And it's very interesting. It's just like something happened there. Something very interesting definitely happened there. So I'm not sure exactly how it's supposed to play out, but I am excited to see what's going to happen when Raven encounters these people. Right, I don't know why I said these people, but the Team Ranger. So that should be really cool. It'll be interesting to see if Nora and Ren even know who she is, because I'm curious how often she keeps the mask on. And, considering how serious, looking the mask is, it's not just like, Adam's mask where it's just like, I can't think of, like a royal ball type of thing, like a Halloween ball type of thing. Hers is like a full-on helmet type of mask. So I'm curious how often she wears that, and how much of herself she really is around her tribe. Like that, she probably doesn't wear it at all, and maybe she just has it on her. And then if she does do some stuff with the White Fang, that's when she wears it, so that she can kind of jump back and forth. But it's very interesting to see, and them kind of throwing out, a lot of people wondering whether or not Qrow is actually Ruby's dad. I thought was interesting. Like I said, I personally never considered that myself. But I don't know. I guess we would just have to see. I mean, we'll just have to see. I mean, I honestly never considered it myself, but it was just really interesting. It was like clearly, we obviously know that Raven is Yang's mom, and Tai Yang is definitely Yang's dad, but it's just very interesting, and it would be like, considering Qrow's position in the series, it wouldn't be that crazy to think that he would leave, and it's like, hey, I need you to look after my daughter and raise her as your own, because he's always out there doing all sorts of insane crap. He's doing like, basically what Ozpin used to do, like what they reference when Qrow first shows up, is that it seemed like, all the adults used to do all this stuff, and Qrow is like the only one still doing it. So that would explain a lot as to why, she's there. And of course, Tai Yang just raised them both like, yeah, you're sisters, that's all there is to it. And Qrow is the father who, acts as the uncle. But it makes a lot of sense. I mean, it just does. Like, that's all I can really think to say. It wouldn't be that surprising, all things considered. But at the same time, things happen. Sometimes you have kids by different women. So who knows? Maybe Tai Yang is just, maybe he's not as corny as he seems. Maybe he doesn't tell jokes all the time, although I'm sure he does. But who knows what he said. I mean, he was with Raven, so he must have said something, considering how hardcore she seems to be now. Either she had a complete 180, or he changed. One of them had to have changed, because that's just crazy. So who knows how that'll play out. But now that things are kind of getting to a very interesting area, that would be cool. Like if Ruby found out that Qrow was actually her father instead of her uncle. But I don't know. We'll just have to wait and see. But definitely a great episode. I mean, it's good to see the characters developing through some of their hardships, specifically, of course, Yang in this one. But it's cool just to have some of those lighthearted moments, like having Tai Yang talk with two characters who have just been professors, this whole time. Of course, Oobleck is really silly, and Port is too, but to have them just hanging out and stuff, like, that's something we just don't see. So that was really cool. Even when they were in school and things were nicer, we didn't see stuff like that. It was always the kids together, but this was like, the adults just hanging out and reminiscing about better, older times. So it was definitely cool. I definitely enjoyed that, and I am excited to see where they take this next episode. I mean, I doubt that Raven will end up running into the team in the next episode. I don't think they'll do it that fast. I would love it, because I really want some answers about Nora and Ren as far as their relationship to the tribe, and you know, what really happened there. So I'm certainly excited about that because in a sense that kind of makes them family with Yang, as you know, as well as RWBY. So just brings characters closer together, but through like absolute turmoil. So we'll see how it all plays out. But it was definitely a great episode as usual. But I definitely want to know what you guys thought about it. So please comment below. Let me know your favorite parts, your least favorite parts, and I actually want to know how you guys think Yang is going to continue to develop, because it seems like with her getting the arm at the end of this episode, it seems like it's headed into the territory of the opening where she starts freaking out, because of course that's still her thing. Like she still has the dream sequence, which was actually really cool with her. You know, like her gauntlets were there and then they disappeared, and then her other arm was gone, and here comes Adam just being really hardcore, just like Raven. Surprised they aren't dating, but I like that. You know, it's still developing, and like I said, I felt like she took that leap for other characters rather than her truly being ready. So I want to know how you guys think it'll play out, because I think we're moving into that opening territory where she's gonna be freaking out still, and like she's because we haven't actually seen her train with her dad yet, and that's in the opening where she's training with him, and then she like continues to fall apart. So I'm curious if that was just like, hey, she's freaking out, and it wasn't specifically that part, but at the same time, it's in the opening. They could follow it like a one-to-one correlation. Like, yep, they're training, and then she freaks out, which I'm sure she will. I don't think she'll just be like, boom, I'm over it. I'm not having flashbacks about this dude chopping my arm off. I'm sure we're gonna get more of those scenes. So I want to know how you guys think it'll advance, how quickly it'll advance, whether or not you guys think she will truly keep the arm. Like I said, I have my predictions based on when they release the concepts for, you know, Team RWBY. You know, her design, she didn't have the arm. They easily could have put that in there. They easily could have left it out too, because they didn't want to just give it away instantly, even though it was like her first episode. It was like, you know, here's the arm. So I don't know, I could be wrong. It could have just been like, we don't want to show, you know, flat out say, yeah, here's an arm. But who knows? But I definitely want to know your predictions and what you guys thought about the episode in general. So please comment below, let me know, and thanks for watching.